All right, listen up. I'll be blunt. The neighbor tried to run the whole HOA, then threatened to put a lien on my house over a backyard barbecue. Sounds ridiculous, right? But it actually happened. And that was just the opening act for how crazy things got. I grew up in this little house stuck in a sea of cookie-cutter homes, and our place stuck out. My grandpa, a stubborn tradesman, refused to sell the land back in the 1940s. When developers came with bulldozers and promises, he said no. He kept his workshop, his fruit trees, the hand-forged mailbox. And they literally built the streets around our lot, curving roads so they wouldn't have to touch it. When he died, I inherited the place in 2019. It creaks, the paint on the forest green door is faded. I love every bit of it. Neighbors around here live by the book beige houses, perfect hedges matching mailboxes, while our yard is loud with wildflowers, vegetables, and fruit dropping onto the sidewalk. That difference wasn't just cosmetic, it was fuel for control. Enter Brenda, that's her name for the story, the HOA president who wore a clipboard like it was a badge of office. Every afternoon, she'd stroll the neighborhood measuring grass, taking pictures, making notes. She treated enforcement like a holy mission, reporting papers left on driveways, measuring where trash cans sat, policing holiday decorations. I'd see her standing at the fence, staring at my garden like it had personally offended her. Then I had a backyard cookout, nothing wild, just 4 friends, burgers, some music, cornhole. We kept the music low enough to talk normal adult stuff. And Brenda showed up. At first she pretended to work in her garden, then she just stared, then she started filming with her phone. My friends got weirded out, but we stayed. 2 days later, a heavy official-looking card from the HOA arrived, $500 fine for excessive noise with exact times, photos, decibel claims, and Brenda's signature. They threatened a lien if I didn't pay. The letter used words like administrative fees and legal costs to make it sound serious, like some kind of legal action had already been taken. That's the moment the feelings blew up: anger, disbelief, like my grandfather's home could be threatened by a pin and a stamp. But instead of flipping out, I started digging. I went down to the county records office, that beige, fluorescent-lit bureaucracy smell and all, and pulled every document tied to the property. The clerk pulled the deed, the subdivision plat, and the HOA filing. Turns out our lot was literally a donut hole, an excluded parcel. When Whispering Pines was recorded, my grandfather's property was carved out of the covenants. There was a county-stamped document saying our address was not subject to HOA rules. Officials certified the whole thing. The clerk also pointed out something chilling: threatening to record a lien when you have no authority to do so can be fraud. Here's the twist: this discovery flips the story. I went from target to someone holding the receipts. Instead of yelling, I wrote a calm, structured letter to the whole HOA board history of the property. Copies of the county documents, a request to cease and desist, and a clear note that I was keeping my options open. Professional, documented, not emotional. Everything you'd want in a legal posture. Act 2. The pushback. The HOA's treasurer called, genuinely surprised he'd never known about the excluded parcel. He asked for copies. I sent them, and within hours they'd called an emergency meeting. The board reviewed the records and found Brenda had acted on her own, issuing fines, hiring lawyers, and enforcing rules without proper approval. Worse, they found a pattern: she'd used HOA authority to settle personal vendettas, fining people over patio furniture, hassling an elderly man about his garden gnomes, targeting neighbors she didn't like. A surprising ally showed up. Robert, a board member I barely knew. He came over, red-faced, apologetic. He'd been out of the loop, trusted Brenda to handle day-to-day stuff, and felt awful realizing what she'd been doing. Robert's appearance was the unexpected pivot. He helped get the board to act. They sent me a formal apology, retracted the fines, and removed Brenda from her post. I wasn't satisfied with just that. I filed a complaint with the county about the lien threat and the misuse of HOA power. The county's property fraud investigator told me plainly that even threatening a false lien can cause real financial harm. It can mess with credit, sales, loans, and they'd look into the harassment. Then came the payoff, Act 3, the satisfying finish. A few months later, I threw a big party, a real celebration. A local band, lights, catered food, neighbors showing up to support. This wasn't petty revenge. It was a joyful declaration I can legally enjoy my property. People came because they heard what happened. A lot of neighbors had their own Brenda stories. The band played loud enough to be heard blocks away, and for once it felt like freedom. Patricia, the new HOA president, stopped by with a gift basket and a sincere apology from the board. Folks hugged an old man said finally, and kids danced like they didn't have to worry about being cited for leaving bikes in the driveway. The best moment wasn't the noise, it was seeing the neighborhood relax, watch each other's backs, and feel less policed. There's a lesson here, not a sermon, but a wake-up. Small, unchecked power can do a lot of damage, and people tend to trust the trappings of authority, seals, signatures, official letters, without checking the facts. Sometimes protecting yourself means doing the tedious, unglamorous work, pulling deeds, calling the county, sending certified letters. Truth only helps you when it's documented, signed, and presented clearly. So here's the question I'll leave you with, and it's a bit uncomfortable when a community hands a little power to a few people who watches the watchers. Should individual effort be the only thing that exposes abuses, or should communities build stronger safeguards to stop a Brenda from ever wielding that kind of unofficial power? What do you think? Should small local authority be more tightly limited? Have you dealt with a neighbor or official who abused a little bit of power? Drop your story in the comments, hit like if you enjoyed this one, share it. If you know someone who'd relate, and subscribe, or just tell me, who are you siding with here? Justice or overreach? Thanks for listening. I've got more stories about clipboards and self-appointed rulers. See you next time.